I hated the Sandine trade. Just hated it. But now what do I think? Brian, the Leafs guy here, talking about the Sandine trade. Before we get into that, this is a brand new channel. I'm just getting my toes wet with the YouTube platform. Never done it before. I'm still new to video creation. I'm still new to editing. I would love to get a partnership at some point with YouTube, so I would love to get monetized, but you need 1,000 subscribers. And if you look, we're at like 27 or 28 or something. So I'm far away from that, but that is the goal. So if you like this content, feel free to drop a sub or drop a follow or comment. But either way, let's get into this right away. The Rasmus Sandin trade. I really did not like this at last year's deadline. So this just happened right after the Jake McCabe trade. It sounds like Rasmus Sandin wasn't overly happy. He's like, where's my place here? Which I'll go into. I know exactly where I would slot him. But Rasmus Sandin went off to Washington. We ended up getting Erik Gustafsson, who was a depth defenseman, offensive defenseman, who was a pending UFA. Obviously, Rasmus Sandin had one other year, so this year at $1.4 million as well as last year. And then he's a restricted free agent, meaning Washington still has control of him afterwards. So, and we also got Boston's first round pick, which ended up being the 28th overall, and we drafted Easton Cowan, which obviously we didn't know at the time. So let's go back to the Jade deadline. I got a first, Erik Gustafsson for Sandine. I was super not impressed because I'm a huge fan of Rasmus Sandin. So let's open up his card. On Cap Friendly, he's 23 years old now. I think he might have been 22 at the time. Not overly huge, but he's just a good overall defenseman. Still young, so still not yet completely fully established. So on the Leafs last year, he had 20 points in 52 games, so 4 goals, which wasn't too bad. As soon as he got traded to Washington, he put 15 points in 19 games for Washington, and I was like, I knew it! We just need to let him go, unlock him a little bit more. This year, it's been a slower start. He only has 4 points in 17 games, but he is averaging, we'll look at this a little bit later, 23 minutes a game, over 23 minutes a game. So he is the number 2 defenseman in Washington. So they're playing him legitimately. And Washington just can't score in general. So I have a feeling that's probably not all Rasmus Sandin. So this is just a little bit on the low side. I'm sure if you looked at his metrics, it's probably he's doing better than that. But obviously, we got Erik Gustafsson. Gustafsson played 9 games in the regular season for the Leafs, 4 assists. Playoffs, he got 1 goal, and he only played 2 games. Overall, I was like, he was a good addition. However, we had 9 defense. So let's go to this next page here, which shows what our team looked like going into the playoffs. This one doesn't have Matthew Knies, just so keep Matthew Knies in there as well. Obviously, huge addition, but ultimately, let's go over the defense. So he had 9 NHL defensemen, and Timmins got no time at all. So we got Riley Shen. I like the Shen pickup, 3rd round pick. He's exactly what we need. We had McCabe and Brody. McCabe Brody pair just didn't work. We had Giordano Hall, and then Gustafsson Liljegren, and then we had Timmins as well. 9 NHL defensemen. Don't think we needed that many defensemen. I liked giving Timmins more of a shot, and I liked having Sandin in there. Either way. So let's go take a look. I think this is what our team would look like at the moment with Rasmus Sandin. I obviously traded Easton Cowan away here for Rasmus Sandin. I think Rasmus Sandin behind Morgan Rielly would be just such a perfect combination. And then you can have McCabe as your 3rd and then Giordano as your 7th defenseman. Right now in this scenario, I just chucked McCabe over to the right side and put McCabe there. So let's go back to this. So Rielly, Sandin, McCabe as your 3rd. So Rielly number 1, Sandin number 2. I like it. So Sandin has this good offensive flair. He hasn't shown it 100% yet, and he also has the ability to hit. I still remember, if you Google it, maybe I'll throw this in the description, but there's a clip of him absolutely blowing up Wheeler when he was on the Winnipeg Jets, just like completely destroys him. And I fell in love with Rasmus Sandin ever since. So this team looks so much better to me, like with that. Obviously, in this scenario, on the right side, we have Brody, who I really like, Liljegren, and Timmins. So this right side is still missing a piece. So I would still suggest we get a right side defenseman, but this defense on the left side looks perfect. Honestly, Riley, perfectly slotted. Sandine as a number 2, perfectly slotted. He's a number 1. He's the number 2 or top pairing defenseman on Washington, which I think is too high for him at the moment. So it's like Riley number 1, Sandine number 2, McCabe number 3, Giordano number 4. I think that is a perfect combination for a cup contending team. And then our right side would need some work, but that's fine. We just get, if you get somebody on top of Brody, everybody else just gets slotted perfectly, right? It's like if you get like a top pairing defenseman, then it's like top pairing defenseman. Then Brody moves down to number 2, Liljegren moves down to number 3, Timmins number 4. It's like, wow, that's unbelievable. Or like I don't mind Brody in that spot too. So if you get somebody to push Liljegren and Timmins down, I'd be okay with that too. So like overall, this would look so much better. Now I say, so this was the on TSN. You can see Sandin's playing 23 and a half minutes. A little bit of power play time. That's clearly power play 2. A little bit of shorthanded time, but he's getting a ton of 5-on-5 minutes on Washington, who are in the playoff spots right now. They can't score to their save their lives. It's crazy. Ovechkin has 12 points in 17 games, and he's leading their team. That's a problem. So they need some more scoring. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sandine has an uptick in the second half of the year in terms of his offensive production. He has no power play points at all right now, so that's clearly a problem. So let's change. So this happened at last year's deadline. Wasn't happy about it. It kind of changes a little bit. I still don't love it. However, we received Easton Cowan with the 28th overall. That's who we picked. And at the time, he was projected to go in the second round at some point, so people thought it was way too early. Last season in the OHL with London Knights, in 68 games, he had 53 points. Not too many. In the playoffs, he had 21 points in 20 games, which, if you know anything about the OHL, you know that's still not great. Even a point-per-game player in the OHL isn't huge. But it sounds like he had a great second half of the season, and they were super high on him. It sounds like on the draft table, the Leafs kind of got in a little bit of conflict with each other. They all wanted to draft Easton Cowan, but it sounds like some people thought they should trade their first round pick and move it back a little bit so that they could draft Easton Cowan a little bit later and then have another pick on top of that. Ultimately, they ended up keeping their pick and choosing him. And now when we look at it a few months later, it's been a bit crazy. Like, Cowan had an amazing camp with the Leafs. He actually showed as if he belonged. I think the only reason why he got sent back down to the OHL is because he's 18 years old. If he had that performance when he was 19, I think they would have kept him. But they said, you know what, like, we have too many players on our team right now. It was just the easy move to make. There was like no downside to it, so I think they just sent him back. So far with the London Knights in 19 games, he has 31 points. So we'll take a look what that looks like in the OHL. So he's clearly taken an uptick on there. London Knights are a great team. So if we go to the OHL, I sorted it by points per game because Easton Cowan missed quite a few games at the start of the year because he was still with the Leafs in the camp. But that puts him 4th in the entire league in points per game, behind Carson Refkoff, who Seattle pick, I believe, a second-round pick. Seattle has a few sneaky picks in the second round that are just like blowing up, and that's clearly one of them. Flip Mazar, who's the Montreal draft pick, first round from 2 years ago, the 26th overall, and then Quinton Musty, who went 26th overall this past year to San Jose, so that's really good. But Easton Cowan's looking like he's turning out to be a very good player and could be a very sneaky pick for the Leafs. I think in a redraft today, he would probably go in the top 20. I'm just talking to my butt here, but I would not be surprised if that was the case. He's leading the London Knights in scoring as well. Let's see if I can see that. London Knights here. So he is leading. Oh, sorry. He's 5 games left, so it looks like Denver Barkey has 2 extra points, but 5 games more played. So Easton Cowan's well on his way to being the leading scorer on London Knights, and is just looking like a stud of a player. He just looks shifty. He's good. He clearly looks still young, so there's still so much room to grow. So I ultimately want to say, when I go back to the trade for Washington with Rasmus Sandine, that I think the Leafs got lucky. I think Rasmus Sandin was such a great pick. I think he was the 29th overall pick for the Leafs. Yes, 29th overall in 2018. So basically, they just shifted for a 28th, so ultimately the same pick. And it looks like Easton Cowan is a stud and that they might have gotten lucky with this trade. I still don't love it. Like, I'm excited about Easton Cowan, but I think we have a Rasmus Sandin sized hole in our decor. But I went from hating it to being okay with it, I guess. Not loving it still, but it's progressed further. So I would love to hear your perspective. What are your thoughts on this trade? Are you happy with this trade? Obviously, in my mind, it's looking way better now that we have Easton Cowan. Clearly, he's still young. Clearly, anything can happen with him. Maybe we're overreacting with Easton Cowan, but he's looked amazing so far, and I'm excited about it. So tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me how I can improve this channel as well. I appreciate everybody so very much. I'll make another video tomorrow. But for the time being, Brian, the Leafs guy, out. Have a wonderful day, everybody.